The date was April 4th, 2023. The banking crisis of Silicon Valley had recently rocked the nation. Tornado outbreaks all along the Midwest began ravaging landscapes. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 won Favorite Movie at the Kids' Choice Awards 2023. And JD Killzone uploaded the 3 book covers compilation. A smashing hit that topped the charts of our hearts. Now, anyway, the date is June 2024. And at least one of these historical events is returning with a sequel. That's right, the tornadoes are back! That's right, 3 covers compilation is back. What you see before you are 3 unique text blocks that I have already paper treated, sewn, headbanded, and bookmarked. They will be our test subjects for this mad science. The beginning stages of cover assembly and spine decal have already been completed as well, for the purposes of this video. The transformation will come in the metamorphosis of the bare bones to the beautiful. I will be operating on them within an order of operations, for which I have nicknamed each. First will be the golden spider, secondly the rustic cogs, and finally the vintage flowers. The golden spider consists of hand-deckled mixed media pages which have been dyed with tea. The bookmark is a black leather with a spider charm dangling from the end. The rustic cog is also tea-stained mixed media paper, with a bookmark of black and metallic copper patterning. The vintage flowers shares a similar bookmark with a white and gold scheme, complemented by cardstock pages in various shades of brown arranged in an ombre. As our covers have only their skeletons, we must adorn those skeletons with meat and sinew before skin can be applied. The muscle of good embossing in our case is hand-cut bookboard, planned and patterned beforehand to accommodate future embellishments. Of our 3 tomes, each will have very specific needs when it comes to housing our different cover decorations, and as such, concepting and off-camera measurements were an important part of the design process. I already have in my possession all elements that will be included in each cover, and using them, I created the framework in which they will rest out of bookboard, blades, and free-handed hopes and dreams. I know not if there is any sort of technical term for the structures of embossing, but I like to call this breed of double layering, a double-layered embossing structure. The highest layer is glued to the mid-layer, which is then glued to the base, our meat adorning our bones. As you'll notice throughout this process as well, among the little measurements and markings on the covers, I have accentuated areas for future rivets and buttons. This will make their application far easier for myself in the future. This process leaves them in this curious state, organized pulped wood awaiting anxiously its layer of skin. But first, a few piercings. Drilling the rivet holes is an addendum I've made to my process throughout the years. I bind not only with bookboard, but wall paneling as the cover bases, and hammering straight through multiple layers of stubborn wood and glued leather is made far easier when a drill can do half the process for me. And on the topic of glued leather, it seems my eager dears are ready for it. I have pre-cut pieces of triple-grade aniline tanned leather for each cover and then some, leaving a healthy excess on each edge for when we will need to fold them over. You may have noticed the structure of our second child, the Rustic Cogs, is different from the others. I am experimenting with a new style of cover in which the sides all close on themselves across the front, akin to a box. As such, the leather must be cut differently to fulfill this form. I have chosen in order, deep black for the golden spider, textured russet brown for the rustic cogs, and fern green for the vintage flowers. For those of you familiar with me and my process by now, you'll likely have picked up on my tendency to work from the center outward. Other bookbinders have a preference for brushing glue across the entire cover and leathering it all at once. I work a little more slowly and tend to take my time on small areas, and if I begin from the middle, I can work on different sections in pieces while others might still be drying. The center spider is a prime example. Sculpted ahead of time with polymer clay, the embossing becomes a delicate process with both finger and bone folder, wherein I attempt to showcase as much of the curvature and creases of the original sculpting as I can. And, as stated by the vintage toy restorer in Toy Story 2, you can't rush art.
You can't Rush art.
The spines dry for a prolonged period of time, truly just for my peace of mind. When I return to them to crease the hinge, having uncured sections pull away from the spine is actually one of the top 10 tragedies of life. The point of that weird sentence was to explain why I'm bouncing back and forth from book to book. Truly, also just another signal to you of my mania. The spine ridges of the cog book serve more than just a decorative purpose. They will hold straps that are yet to be created in the near future of this process. And with our final floral book, there is a more simple, sculpted pattern for its spine. Depending on the leather, a small square such as this one in the spine's center might not be advised. However, this leather in particular is quite thin and cooperative, so I trust it with more difficult geometries. And it otherwise knows that there are consequences for disobeying me. After off-camera time has elapsed, I glue within the hinge and carry on to the more gratifying step, embossing the covers. Black leather, for some reason, I have found is typically more pliable than other colors, despite being thicker than cuts such as the green featured in our third tome. These, too, I often take in small pizza slices of the whole book pie, opting for, quote, ample drying time, as is becoming my catchphrase when it comes to leathering. My fingers prepare the way for the bone folder with an initial smoothing into the surface topography. And as I do that now, I suppose I will let you enjoy such a process in vocal silence and musical accompaniment. My brain spun in circles trying to sleuth out the mechanics of this aesthetically mechanical book. It is not complex by any means, but when you spend so long binding books one way, it is like perhaps negative second nature, which is to say, it doesn't come naturally, trying to bind them another. Rather than providing a visual diagram with a pencil or drawing tablet like any sane person may have done in my position, I opted instead to keep all my thoughts inside and execute them on expensive materials and simply hope for the best. Apparently, hope carries weight, however, luckily for me, and in this instance, my experimenting came to fruition. Just stay tuned, though, like I need to tell you twice. I utilized twine on this cover for its skeleton, as you may have noticed. This was to provide a thinner and more rounded effect to the affected area, which again was more experimentation. The result is fine, I suppose. It doesn't detract, per se, but it doesn't add as much strange dimension as I would have hoped for in the final result. A minor detail, but if you're like me, even the minor details will keep you up at night. Actually, wait, what am I talking about? Watching the footage back in retrospect, it looks just fine. Finally, I can reclaim my nights and rest once more. The footage of folding over and gluing to the interior cover is messy. Well, because the process itself is messy. It isn't pretty, and will cursedly stay that way until it is liberated by the beauty of a text block and cover sheets. For now, you will have to bear with me, and I beg of you to do so, because the cover sheets I found, and made this time, are very cute. Say it with me again, kids. Fingers then folder, fingers then folder. There will be a quiz at the end of this video, so make sure you're studying. See? What did I tell you? Starting off strong. I love a good gold foiling. And yes, you're correct. I don't have a paper cutter, and I opt to do so with my hands and scissors. This is not advised if you're not extremely confident freehanding straight lines, which, I've been told from non-artists over the years, is like the hardest thing to draw, aside from anything above the complexity level of a stick figure. Or a stick figure on a skateboard, if you are my father. I digress. One of these things is not like the others, and you guessed it, the cog book is being too complicated for my little hee-hoo peanut brain again. For both aesthetics and practicality, I'll be creating my own cover sheets, with canvas, acrylic paint, blood, sweat, tears, love, and monosodium glutamate, though the MSG is a side dish in the form of Cheetos I eat to occupy my hunger while I paint the sheets. I have pre-mixed my palette with various shades of rusted brown, combined with some subtle metallic and shimmering pigments. Taking different shades of each, I build what I hope is a, quote, cogs in the void effect, as I'm henceforth dubbing it. Diverse and perhaps impractical cog shapes will take form in my time-lapse, so I invite you to wind up your brain with the key you left on your bedside table. Don't worry, I saw where you left it. And try to be attentive to pure footage with the absence of my voice's stimulus, and simply bask in ambient ambiance. Back to the freehanding thing. I'm completely winging this, and though they aren't mathematically perfect, feel free to comment down below complimenting my ability to freehand circles in addition to straight lines. No, I am not accepting criticism at this time. But folks, that's not all. The deal only gets sweeter from here. The function of a cover sheet isn't just to look pretty, it is also to bridge the gap between cover and text block. Canvas is floppy. You don't want floppy cover sheets. You want them to be nice and stiff, like cardboard. So for my next trick, here's some metallic copper sheets that I will integrate seamlessly into the design as cover sheets. Or at least they will be so if they follow the blueprint in my brain. Disclaimer. The My Little Pony Band-Aid is not mine. It was the only thing accessible in the given setting, and it belongs to the Camerawoman, who is a brony. I will not allow my reputation to be tarnished.
Hey!
I'll give you guys 3 tries to guess which of the 3 books is requiring an extra step. Try again. No, you idiots, try again. The cog book, yes. You're not idiots, I just got too into it, my bad. Before I can attach the text block and cover sheets, I need some leather straps and their subsequent hardware assembled. Stat. Actually, it wasn't very stat, but for your sake, it has been edited to be, as one would say, stat. I assemble my straps myself, slicing them from a black leather cut and then folding them over for strength and girth. I made a strap or 2 back in my day, yep. These ain't gonna be any different. What thems need is a strap and a buckle and some rivets and either loops or D-rings. For the untrained eye, D-rings are shaped like the letter D, believe it or not. Loops are manually cut leather strips, like the ones on all your cute little belts at home. Buckles come in a few forms. These ones operate by wrapping the strap around the far bar, as the other bars where the complex mechanisms, i.e. the little center dingle, threads through a hole and then runs across the top of the former bar, with the excess being held either by a D-ring or a loop, in my case a loop. They operate as such. So, a little briefing for you. Keep up, keep up. Here, we have connecting the casing flap to the front cover, A little leatherworking ditty called a button. You know, kinda like the ones on all your cute little pants at home. And now, with the special accommodations made for the cogbook having been completed, each of our titular 3 can be attached by way of text block to covers. The linen cloth and twill tapes of the text block act as anchors flush with the glue against all of our hard work. Yes, that's right, our hard work. I couldn't have done it without you. We begin with our precious golden spider, and as decadent as its cover keeper will be, so too must be its embellishments. And unlike my band-aid in these shots, the golden rivets will emit and frame actual beauty and sleek finesse. Small strap action and D-rings, which I've already described, please pay attention, will be utilized for a clasp that will bear a lock and key to provide a closure across the width of the book. With the almost indestructible strength of rivets, the straps are secured on the front and back covers to converge in the center around this gunmetal lock. A small metallic key unlocks and relatches what is mostly decorative, but I like to pretend it could truly protect your secrets if any sort of pressure was applied in an attempt to pry it open to read your deepest confessions, and it most certainly wouldn't break in that process. All other embellishments are applied as well, with leather glue and drops of my industry secret, Loctite, to hold things in place, while the slower curing leather glue takes its sweet, sweet time at its own leisure, disobedient thing. Believe it or not, once upon a time I myself was a child, and in those long gone days I had a fear, yes, me, feeling fear. A fear of spiders. Strangely, as years passed and maturity lent me a hand with rational thought, they progressed from being crawling demons to small shadow dwellers, to garden protectors, to quaint little weavers, to artists of nature. Strange little things with weird little internal systems of mobility, living and keeping to themselves as hermits of the webs. With the gold leafing applied by delicate fingers, my fingers to be precise, a sealant coats all affected areas for longevity and protection. I wish for my girl to subsist past a spider's lifespan, of course. As much as I've seemingly complained of its existence, do not forget that the Rustic Cog tome is of my own conception, and no one is to blame but myself. But despite this complicated relationship that we have, I retain faith and hope in its future potential. Now that we've arrived to this point with the little bugger, and I've wrangled it into submission, we can see the payoff to our earlier ventures with canvas and metallic cardstock, bridging the gap, so to speak, as I'm bringing them back around. We interrupt this regularly scheduled programming to tell you a tale of woe. The great hard drive corruption of 2023. Thousands of dollars that I didn't have later, and I got most of my footage back. But one of the shots lost to the binary sea was my arrangement and design of these quirky little cogs. I suppose you can at least see me gluing them on. Sigh, I have failed you, I know, but I will make it up to you by any means necessary. But enough of the sob stories. Who can cry when there are books to be made and flowers to be wood-burned? Oh, Whoops, a bit of a spoiler, but after this motif of antique brass embellishments, I will be adding to the rustic aesthetic by wood-burning a flower bouquet. With even more strap action. Yes, you heard that correctly. 3 out of 3 strap actions, each in different form and function. For our vintage flower journal, I am utilizing a rotating clasp affixed with 2 industry secrets, Loctite and rivets. With corner protectors and decorative brass pieces affixed properly, we may proceed with our pièce de résistance. A strange interest of mine in latter years has been researching the meaning and intention behind flowers included in a bouquet. To some, flowers are as deep as being considered and used as a communicable floral language. Some bouquets are upheld for tradition, such as baby's breath for baby shower favors, or lilies for funerals. But dating back to the Victorian era, some niche and considerably obscure flowers have been given meaning. Have you heard of an abatina flower? Me neither. It denotes fickleness, by the way. Hyssops symbolize sacrifice. The oh-so-common and clearly familiar Sweet William flower is given as a blessing of gallantry. Clematis plants? I've got 3 growing in my backyard. Yeah, apparently they mean poverty. That's wow, dude. All of this flower talk is for me to say, I am not depicting any specific flowers that necessarily exist in reality. If they closely enough resemble a real flower and you recognize it, let me know. If not, make up the name and what the flowers mean in the comments. What flowers do you think my dastardly fingers would be organizing into a bouquet? Bene, Viola, here's the finished eclectic bouquet. Alright babes, let's get some leather adhesive onto the back of this balsa wood. And then with that, you know what that means, my little darlings. My children are complete. Our decadent golden spider, steampunk rustic cog, and vintage floral bouquet. Forgive my clumsy display. For showcase reels, I insist on a continuous shot for absolutely no reason and with no justification. But upon digression, here is our deckled-edge tea-stained text block nestled within the motif of a spindling arachnid. Judge not my fumbling hands as I unclasp this lock with only one, for you could not do it better than I with my current restrictions. Now I know that earlier I promised to make it up to you for losing some footage for all eternity, but that was a lie. And in fact, I'm here to make it worse, as in, I also lost footage wherein I attached this center locket. However, now that we're here, let's forget that I owe you any favors and simply enjoy the aesthetic of all these fidget mechanisms. And yep, that's right, I lost this footage too. The flip through of the vintage flower. What are you gonna do about it, huh? That's right, nothing. And that makes me feel worse, because you're so gracious and understanding, and I clearly need reprimanding to feel comfortable in my shortcomings that were absolutely my fault and not spontaneously technologically influenced. But, for a third time, I digress. And with our books in their final forms, and this cyber-hyper-pixel-punk music compilation I'm listening to, transporting me through an interdimensional portal to a distant cable-gore future in which I am a modded bounty hunter, I warn you to step back a few feet, because my circuitry gets overheated when I finish a video script. I bid you all safe travels, and even if you're going nowhere, you better make sure you're safe anyway. Yes, that is a threat. I expect you to return to me upon my next installment. That is also a threat. Good day.